Welcome to I'd Print That. I'm Andrew.
I'm Joe.
So, how was your week, Joe?
Week was pretty decent. Had some additional trying times with printing, and I don't think it was necessarily any fault of my printer. I think it was more of the model I was trying to print. I was trying to print some Z stabilizers for my Perusa, and it would get about 50-ish%. About 50% is about 2 hours on the nose of a 4-hour print, and the layer would it would shift on the x-axis.
Oh,
And it wasn't a constant amount it would shift, no matter where I print, no matter where on my bed I would print it, it always shifted. So I resliced it, compiled it, uploaded it to the SD card, and it would still do it. So I decided I would, rather than print the model that had both the left and the right stabilizer, I just decided to print half of it. It printed just fine.
I wonder if it's just too much. I wonder if it's losing steps.
No, that's a weird thing, is because I went through all of my calibration again. And in the process of doing that, I actually found a guy who has a site that will do the math for you. It's a whole rep calibration how-to with calculator. So you tell it the tooth size of the gear, how many teeth it has, the type of motor it is, the type of belt that you've got, how many teeth per inch or whatever it is, and then you fill that in and you tell it, you say, okay, move 100 millimeters, what the value was, and then it will tell you what the new value is supposed to be. And then you go into your rep configuration file, you make that change, and it'll automatically adjust it. And it'll do it. Oh, yeah, it does it for X, Y, Z, and E.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For the extruder as well.
Yep, it will do it for the extruder. It's kind of a cool little thing. It's one thing I want to link on the website, and actually I'm not just going to link it in the blog post. I think that's a handy little utility to link, like the M3D calculator. While we didn't write this, I think it is definitely useful enough for those people who are building their own printers, rep wraps, and other ones, if they want to do any type of calibration just to fine-tune it. I think it's a very useful utility. I managed to kind of stumble across it on a forum post, and those people who say they've used it has worked quite well. So I printed a single side, and it went and printed out just fine. And it's a different model Perusa than what I have. Same manufacturer, it was just an older revision. Okay. So the smooth rod and the threaded rod are a little farther apart.
Oh, weird.
So I'm going to go through and use kind of the model as a guide and design my own.
There you go. Well, it's just like what we did with M3D.
Yeah.
I mean, they had the formula, it's just not a calculator.
Yeah. And this is just the Z stabilizer, the model itself. I'm not gonna try and redo this guy's work. I'm just gonna link to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think it's, he's done the work and he deserves the credit for it. Whereas,
we're not trying to take ownership of it. Trying to keep, because I'm sure that you've also found in 3D printing, most of the information that I know, that we bounce off each other is what we've dug through forums to find, and that can turn a lot of people off. That's the way I operate. Whenever I find something I want to do, I find every forum I can, and I read everything I can on it, and it drives my wife nuts. But making that information more readily available, especially to our listeners and anybody that's searching, it's definitely a thing we're trying to do for the community.
So in addition to that, going through and reading his little wiki on how to do this, how to calibrate your machine, I had a little bit of an eye-opener on it.
Did you have an epiphany?
Not necessarily epiphany. It's just education. So when you do your steps, when you calibrate that, he tells you, mark out like 110 millimeters.
Yeah.
One thing that he did, which for whatever reason I wasn't thinking about doing this, you can actually take and remove your hot end.
Oh, yeah, and just have it...
run, so you don't actually waste the filament.
Yeah.
You don't have to actually have it melt it. You just have it run it through the tube, rather than melting it and extruding it. It just pushes the filament down,
and you
just do your marks.
And pull it back.
Yep, and you can just retract it when you're done. That's good. Even though it says you want it to extrude 100 millimeters, he was saying if you're in the 90 millimeter range, it's probably good 93, 95, somewhere around there, because you got to figure back pressure on the nozzle. And I think I have to actually back mine off a bit, because I went with a literal 100 millimeters, and I think I'm over extruding, which is why I'm getting a little bit of the pillowing that I'm seeing. And we talked last week about the doing the test prints on filament with the little Monopoly House lookalike thing.
You said the name.
I said the name because when I printed that out, as I'm coming across the peak, the very last few layers, I'm getting a lot of extra filament extrusion
up over there,
and it's not a huge amount, but it's enough to where it is pillowing out a little bit. It's not as smooth as it should be.
Yeah.
So I think I'm close. I just have to back it off a little on the amount that I'm extruding, and it should be pretty much.
Now, are you editing your extrusion multiplier, or you're actually
not the multiplier? No, okay. It's actually my in the configuration it gives you your distance to travel for your X, Y, Z, and E.
So that's one thing I did on the DaVinci's that I never, because we spoke on when we first started trying to get our steps per millimeter, and I told you I needed to do it. I got it to 100%. It was dead on. But then I fiddled with my extrusion multiplier, because I was over extruding as well, and was able to take care of that to take up for the back pressure of the nozzle.
And I might do that because my multiplier was set at 1.1 in my software.
And that's default for Rep Headier.
Yep. And if I set it down to 1.0, it's not enough. So I think I may go up to like a 1.05, kind of a halfway point between the two, and see if I can correct it there. Otherwise, the way that he explains how to set the how to set your extrusion past the initial settings is to take an object that has multiple layers. So it's like there's a model that he links to. It's like a bunch of stacked blocks.
Okay.
This may be a little older reference for you. You've seen the game Q*bert, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. So in the Q*bert level, it's got a bunch of little stacked blocks. It's like a pyramid, but each layer is a set of blocks that's tiered. And he recommends printing something like that, where you can go through and you can get a nice a constant print with several levels.
Yeah.
And then you're looking for he makes a comment, I can't remember the exact terms that he's using, but you're looking for a specific thing while it's making its infill. And if it's not doing this, then you need to adjust by that to make it do that. And then as it's doing its top layers, you look for another thing
Overlapping layers, or
I think it's the amount that it's extruding. It's a specific flow amount that he's looking at.
Okay.
You look for, and then that's just fine tuning to kind of get it just right.
Yeah, and
which I think, like I said, I think I'm very, very close, and I just need to take and make that minor adjustment and run with that.
Yeah. And that's the way I went about it with editing my extrusion multiplier rather than my steps per millimeter, because I kind of looked at it like I would rather it be dead on with the stepper motors, because like we've said in the past, printers are dumb. It's going to go X amount of steps per layer.
Right, and
the software is handling the extrusion multiplier.
Correct.
Which is it made more sense to me to fine tune it with that rather than the steps per millimeter. It's kind of like handicapping something in just the way my brain works.
Right.
It was like handicapping the machine to make it accurate. Now that didn't make sense to me. I want the machine accurate, but I want the software to make it do what I want it to do.
And by making the change within the actual firmware on the printer, you don't have to, if your machine for whatever, you have to reinstall Repetier or try and use a different piece of software, you don't have to actually configure that option. It's already saved within the machine, and unless you have a board failure, you don't have to ever redo that again. It's like the backlash of the M3Ds or any other change that you make within the software. Once it's saved and uploaded, it's done. You don't ever have to touch it again.
Well, cool.
So, but that was my week with printing. I didn't get a chance, like I said, to finish that up. I'm hoping to have that done by next week. That way I can start testing the rigid ink filament, the filament 1 filament, and all the other YS filament that I have. And at some point I need to, come steal some Ninja Flex from you.
Yeah. I need to test it out to see what temperatures we need to print at, because it is an ABS base.
Okay.
For me this week, I didn't really print a lot. I worked on the Stormtrooper helmet.
Yeah, you said you were having some issues with that.
I was having some major issues, and actually I had a really good learning experience, and I don't want anybody that's listening, I don't want you guys to think we're infallible. No. We're learning just as much as anybody else is. Yeah, and if you hear us say something wrong, and if you have a point of interest and you're like, hey, I know how to fix that, come talk to us. We're more than happy to respond and talk and figure something out.
We have Facebook, Twitter, we have a contact form on our website, Instagram also. Any of those platforms you want to say something, we're pretty open. We'll read everything that you have to say, good, bad, indifferent. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So what I learned, so I was printing my helmet out, and for the most part, it doesn't matter resolution-wise. So I was printing at 3.3 millimeter because I'd rather thicker layers, better layer adhesion, and because it's going to be bondoed and painted, it doesn't really matter. But I was noticing, I would get, and I have noticed it for a long time with my my XYZs, the Da Vinci's, I would get, it looked like Z-banding.
Right.
And I was like, man, it's still doing it. And I have taken so much time and so much care to get these things just perfect. And it's still doing it. And I was like, gosh. So I started doing a little research on it. I found that my shells are too thick. My shells are too thick, and I also have too much infill.
How much shells were you using? 6
horizontal shells.
Okay. I think the max that I do is 5.
And generally, your preset in Repetier is 3.
3 and 3.
Vertical and horizontal. And the reason I did it was for a specific print that I needed to be, it was actually my shift knob. I needed the outside to be very thick and very sturdy. And I just kind of left it because I was like, well, it's a helmet. It needs to be sturdy on the outside. And what I've found is I need to lower my infill because it's just too much. It's too much plastic. And I fiddled with it a little bit. I unfortunately got very discouraged with my helmet because the part I'm printing is large.
Right.
One print is a quarter of it. If I do it with support.
Version of Shecky.
So when I print this print with support material, it's not needed. The guy that did the model has sliced it to where it doesn't need support material.
Right. It actually.
Its overhang is enough
overhang
to where I shouldn't have to use it, but I was worried about it, so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use support material, and it's like a metric ton of support material. I literally have a mason jar full of acetone slurry now. And
have you been using acetone slurry for this?
I actually haven't, and now I'm going to.
Okay.
I tried. Point of interest. A while back, I spoke on because we use Craft Bond,
right?
And I said I'd found an aerosol Craft Bond. Do not use it.
Okay, I take it it's not as good then.
It's like a veneer on your print bed.
Really?
It is really hard to get. I ended up having to soak my bed on acetone to get it to come off.
Wow.
And yeah, I had to heat the bed. I put it up to 90°C.
Okay, that's pretty warm.
Yeah. And I tried rubbing alcohol for isopropyl alcohol first. 90% isopropyl. Did not take it off.
Wow. Holy cow.
I mean, it did in little bitty parts, and I was sitting there like I was polishing the stupid print bed. Couldn't get it to come off. Finally broke down and used the acetone. Got it to come off for the most part. Got lazy and went, it's what it's going to print. I'm good. And unfortunately, that print failed at about 80%.
Mm-hmm.
Went to bed. I watched it. I just kept an eye on it for hours. It's a 13-hour print without support material.
Right.
And that ups it by about 5 hours with support material.
Wow.
So, and I finally went to bed. Woke up the next morning. Unfortunately, it had curled a little bit on the edges, and I'm like, oof, it'll probably stay. I'm fine with it because I am going to use body filler. I can take up the gap on the curling. It unfortunately had curled enough where it broke free and moved.
See, and that's one thing I was looking at. I was also doing some research on your first layer, like bed adhesion. Mm-hmm. And I found another really good article on bed adhesion. Evidently, I've got a 0.3 mil nozzle on my print bed.
Yeah.
I was actually reading through it, and if you press it down too much, you can actually cause yourself more harm than good.
Yeah, definitely.
And they were saying with a 0.3 mil nozzle, you probably don't want to go anything lower than a 0.28. It's just enough to really press it down, but if you go like to a 0.5, I think is what they were saying, that can actually squish it down enough where it will cause it to curl and pull away from the bed.
Yeah, and I've noticed that. Unfortunately, what happened was I was running, the problem I was running into, next layer, and I couldn't get it because first layer's larger, or first layer's so much smaller, and then I would watch my print head and it would bobble across my print. I'm like, what the heck is happening? And it's because it was squishing it out and it was giving it ridges, and
it causes it to deform.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's the thing is once I changed my first layer, this was on this part that I was trying to put this anti-wobble, Z-wobble thing. The moment I changed, also I put a brim on there. I think it was like a 3 millimeter brim, nothing super large. Put the brim on there, changed my first layer to 0.28, and then set my layers thereafter at my nozzle width, 0.3 mil. It printed beautifully.
Yeah,
it looked really, really good. And
isn't that a good feeling? Like,
oh yeah,
you've been printing, and you'll minor defects, you learn to live with them,
right?
And then all of a sudden, your printer will spit out this like beautiful print, and you're like, oh. And I love you, printer. I'm sorry about all the mean things I said to you.
But it was two web pages. That's it. Once I caught those and I really went through them, I was like, oh, well, that really makes sense because it was broken down into for whatever reason into a way that it
just
this
an
is
easily
why
digestible way.
Well, the websites were massive though. I mean, it's not like it was a hey dummy, do this. It was this is a theory behind it. If you have a nozzle size of this, do not do lower than X because you're going to get bad results. And the moment I followed that, bam.
Winning.
It was, yeah, it looked great. I can even show you the little houses that I made with that. They look really, really good.
Good. Glad to hear it.
So, like I said, those are two really, really good things I want to put on the site. There are some other things we'll talk about here in a moment if you have anything else to say.
No, I think that was about it for me. Had a lot of life things going on this week. Very busy at work.
This week last week ended, not this week, but the week prior ended really badly.
Yeah, for you.
This week it didn't start off real well either.
No.
So it's been one thing after another.
But I will say there's a printer on my kitchen table again.
Uh-oh, what happened?
No, it's just sitting there.
Oh, it's just sitting there. You just figured the kitchen table was lonely and it needed a companionship.
My hard thing is my printer's in a closet in my bedroom. So if I want to go print and mess with printers, I end up sitting in my closet in my bedroom, and my family's out in the living room, and I feel bad, so I drag one out. And
Gotcha.
Tomorrow we're having people over, and it will go back in the closet. It's trapped in the closet.
Now wait a minute! Isn't this the family where they 3D printing things?
If I were to leave the printer there, and I would get equally in trouble though by my wife, because everybody would be standing around the 3D printer.
So where we work, we really haven't talked much. There's a few people that know that we do the podcast, and most of the rest of the office is oblivious to it. They don't know.
We just don't bring it up.
Right. I think it's probably at some point make an announcement, hey, this is a thing that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I've really tried to keep family and friends and stuff kind of at arm's length with this, because I don't want to get any influence from any weird influence on
We don't want to hurt feelings like, well, why haven't you invited me to be on the podcast?
Right. And there's other
not
little
that we
reasons.
don't want people, it's just
we're really trying to find our niche, our groove, and I think by trekking this path on our own, there's a few people like, my wife listens to the podcast, and there's a few other people who work with us that do listen, and I get good feedback from them, and it's constructive, and I use it to help improve the things that we do. But it's not that we don't want other people to listen to it. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of a weird superstition-y thing, I think.
And also for me, it's like I don't want to be like, hey, I do a podcast. Do you want to be? No, it's not what we're trying to do with this podcast.
So you at one point here in the recent past talked to the president of the company.
Yeah.
About what we do, and he was fascinated by it, and I was talking with him here a few weeks ago, and I made comment, I understand that you've been told about this, and he said, yeah, and he had questions, and I know in the past you were told, you need to bring the 3D printer home because it's a distraction, but he made comment about bringing a 3D printer in because he is curious to see how they work. He's never seen how they go. So my printer may come in at some point and sit in the break room, not
at your desk,
not at my desk, not in a place where it's going to be too distracting. People can go by it on their way. Let's say if they need to use a restroom or go get some water, and set up just something small to print throughout the day.
Yeah.
Something that I know that I have printed at home and will print well, that will not fail, just so I could, so they can see how it works, what a 3D printer really is and what it does. So he seemed interested in that. But
cool.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting little thing. So besides that, I really don't have much else to say. I don't have any new trials or tribulations, I guess.
No, me either.
We talked a little about these, the calculator and first level or layer adhesion, especially your first layer is your most important layer. But there are other things. When I got into 3D printing, I didn't really know a whole bunch. I kind of had an idea what it was. I've seen them work in videos before, but not a whole lot. And we all know that 3D printing allows you to create physical objects from scratch, be it something you designed or to replace a part for an appliance. And for those that are just getting into 3D printing or want to learn new things and may not know the design and printing process well enough to try it out for yourself, thankfully, there are plenty of free online resources for experimenting with. So you don't have to invest a whole bunch into this. I'm going to go ahead and post a link on our blog to an article which breaks down some of the most fundamental resources to consider when starting out 3D printing. And the best part is that there is no experience or spending required. It's all free stuff. And by simply using the tools outlined, once or twice, you'll have a better understanding of not only the 3D printing technology and how 3D designs are created, you'll even find out where you can get your prints made if you don't have a printer of your own. And that, I think, is very important because you can, if you have something floating around in your head and you go, wow, I'd really like to have this, you could do it yourself. Yeah. That's the beauty of 3D printing. It's all DIY. If you can imagine it, you can print it. So that's really, if you know anybody who is even curious about this, I think this article is a good thing to turn them towards. Because it's not just one site either. They list out several different sites that you can go to that really break this down. Modeling with tutorials and just all kinds of other neat little just basic fundamentals. It covers terminology, and that way, if you ever decide to get a 3D printer of your own, you can go ahead and just jump right in. There's still going to be learning to do and, fiddling around, as we say. We're constantly in a state of flux with the printers.
And I think it's more of constantly a state of learning.
Absolutely. And that I like learning. I mean, it's fun. I enjoy it. And I think it keeps my brain fresh.
Oh, yeah. I'm constantly learning new things about it. A really cool thing that happened actually just here at the office the other day. A couple of the guys overheard Joe and I talking about printing, and it was really cool because a couple guys joined in and they're like, "Oh man, did you see this? They're 3D printing this," and I was like, "This is cool because this is where I want 3D printing to be. I want it to be a thing that it's like a, so to say, water cooler subject."
Yep, absolutely.
It's very cool. And it's very cool that these resources are there because, you have 3D hubs available to you. You have Shapeways. You have all of these different things. So many tutorials on ZBrush, on AutoCAD, on SketchUp, on making your own models. And I know there's a lot of people on Thingiverse and PinShape and My Mini Factory that don't even print themselves. They just do the models and upload them and say, "Here, print it."
Right.
And a lot of people enjoy that. And it's so easy to get into this community, so easy to... when I was looking originally at getting a printer, I was just looking at literally building my own. Not out of a kit, nothing else. Just, I found a guy on Instructables. He had, I think it was like, build a 3D printer for $60 or less, and he used CD drives for all his accesses, the worm drives and the seam drive and the CD drives.
It's interesting. They're not real big.
No, they're not.
Those parts really aren't big, and I've got a grip of
well, my CNC laser is the same thing. It's literally built out of a CD carriage. And that's what it uses. You use the worm drives, you use the stepper motor.
CD burner, yeah. Yep.
And, yeah. So, you don't have to go out and spend a bunch of money. If you have the mindset of, I want to build this, and I want to do this, and I want to get into it, but I don't want to spend a bunch of money, there's always a way.
Instructables is a great resource. There's a project I've been wanting to do I just need to...
The clock?
Yeah, it's a Nixie tube clock.
Yeah, that is.
And I have the Nixie tubes.
Yeah.
I actually found some that were for sale. They were shipped from Ukraine or Russia or somewhere in that area. I can't remember off the top of my head. They're old Soviet Nixie tubes. Mm-hmm. I bought 12 of them because I was going to make 2 clocks.
Yeah.
And I wound up getting 13 from the guy. He actually included one extra. So
and it's a beautiful awesome. Clock. We'll link that in the blog description. But yeah, I've looked at that and wanted to build it myself.
Yeah, I've got a friend's dad. When I showed him that, he was really excited, and I've been just it's buying the electronics. It's another reason why I got my soldering kit, because to build this, the one that I'm building, it is completely disassembled. Like, you have to solder every component onto it.
Okay.
Onto
a breadboard or something?
It's just a circuit board, but every resistor, every capacitor, every integrated circuit, the whole 9 yards, all has to be assembled.
Yeah.
So would be a very, very zen thing for me to do.
Oh, yeah.
Because I like building things. I don't know if I've said this in the podcast. I build Halloween props. I have built a full-size carriage hearse, like horse-drawn hearse. Mm-hmm. It's not a functional hearse, but it looks the part. It's a prop. I have built a toe pincher coffin that I can actually... I have to kind of scrunch my neck a little bit, but I can actually stand in or lay in. Mm-hmm. So my wife and I, we've been doing this for several years. There's little tips and there's little tricks and things that we've learned, but 3D printing kind of fell right in line with this because I can print skulls. The Veroni skull that I printed, that was for my wife, because we like Halloween. There is all kinds of other neat little things that you could do. We normally do yearly or annual Halloween parties. Mm-hmm. And while last year and I believe this year we're going to take a break from, we've been really trying to figure out themes. Mm-hmm. First one that we did was haunted movie theater. Mm-hmm. The second year was Alice in Wonderland. The third year was a kind of a ball, like not necessarily a Halloween ball, but like your Victorian
haunted ball.
Kind of haunted, yeah. That was more for because we got married that year.
Yeah.
It was more for some of the family members so they could get kind of dressed up.
Yeah.
And without a lot of the blood and the horror stuff. We've really been looking at taking what we want. We've been very tame with the things that we do, and we've been looking at kind of upsizing that. Ah. But there are things that we can do with 3D printing that would allow me to make an item, let's say, the front part of a skull, print it once, and vacuum form it to make more forms, so I can reproduce things easily. Mm-hmm. So 3D printing really helped with that. And I'm trying to remember what the point of the story was now.
I don't think there has to be one.
Yeah. So, I kind of derailed myself.
It's all right.
But yeah, 3D printing, at least. We're talking about manufacturing the Nixie
tube clock.
Nixie clock. So I just like assembling things. I like building things. Mm-hmm. So it's just one of those things. And soldering was something that I didn't take a class to learn to do. I did a little research. I learned things. Mm-hmm. Got to the point where I have fixed my PS4, or not PS4, my PS3, my first PS3.
Reflowed the board.
Yeah, reflowed the board on it. I did that with a couple of Xbox 360s that were given the red ring of death. And, it's just a learning thing. I'm a very curious person, so I work well with my hands. And my mind works really well also. I just have one of those brains. So, on to newsy type things. This is something that it's actually kind of an interesting thing to follow.
Okay.
3D printing is going to Washington, and it is for a very unusual legal issue that could affect all of us. So the companies Forum Labs, Shapeways, and 3D printing provider Matter and Form have sent an amicus brief to the U.S. Supreme Court seeking clarification over a copyright issue in a 2015 Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling. This new ruling could have a huge effect on DIY 3D printing and design, as it argues that designers that are not 100% utilitarian can be copyrighted. This places the entirety of 3D printable designs with non-strictly functional elements at risk and can expose an entire 3D printing community to legal action. Ugh. So last year, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals asserted that the shape of a cheerleader's uniform dress and the position of the stripes and lines can be copyrighted. This changes the copyright landscape considerably, as the U.S. government has never allowed copyrights on so-called useful articles, which included clothing, until 2015. While the ruling initially affects clothing, the consequences for 3D printed objects and other designs are immense. Theoretically, everything from toothbrush bristles to chair cushions can be protected by copyright under this new reasoning, as long as creators can argue that any element isn't strictly utilitarian. A 3D printed pencil case that does anything other than strictly hold a pencil in place can be copyrighted by copyright law. It's a huge boost for copyright owners with big pockets, who can now start suing people not just for specifically copyrighted designs, such as a 3D printed Bulbasaur planter, but for a planter that resembles a creature as well.
Come on.
It gets better. As this can have a tremendous impact on 3D printable file repositories such as Thingiverse, action has to be undertaken. The companies are specifically seeking clarity on how to separate creative and copyrightable designs from unprotected utilitarian objects, and even explain that copyright law is bogged down by a significant gray area. So while the cheerleader uniform designs seem to be completely unrelated to 3D printing, the impact of this case can be huge. And we've discussed this in the past, even.
Yeah, well, the debacle with Thingiverse.
Right.
And the guy selling the prints.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I've ran into another situation that's quite similar. The guy that modeled the Stormtrooper helmet ran into a guy that was doing the same thing.
Right.
And this is the guy that I requested, hey, man, do you think you would put out TK-style armor? And he says he's already done it. But unfortunately, with what happened with his Trooper helmet, he's going to sell the files.
Right. Because he was accused of stealing this other guy's work.
Yes.
And heaven forbid somebody has the same idea near the same time you do to create the almost exact same thing.
Yes.
Because every idea is unique and nobody ever has a similar idea. Especially when it comes to Star Wars things, because
everybody loves Star Wars.
Yeah, only one or two people in the world love Star Wars, and only one other person thought about, hey, I can 3D print this file.
Mm-hmm. So it's unfortunate. I responded in turn to him, and I said, you know what, I completely understand. Mm-hmm. It's very unfortunate that this has come to this way. I still would be interested in purchasing the files from you. And I even told him I would sign a not to distribute. I print for myself, and that's it.
Right.
Unfortunately, he hasn't got back to me. He probably just has a really bad taste in his mouth over the whole situation and probably doesn't want to deal with it, and I understand that as well.
Right.
But, just hearing this, it's like, come on. And the 3D printing community is doing the right thing, though.
Right.
They're going out, and rather they're being proactive, and rather than just waiting for the hammer to come down at some point, they're doing the correct thing, I believe.
Well, yeah, and they're trying to get clarification on this. And the nice thing is U.S. Supreme Court has agreed to hear this case with the regarding this cheerleader uniform, which will they'll have to address the copyright clarity issues surrounding that
globally
these guys have brought up. So the
worst case
we
scenario,
will definitely be following this, and you'll hopefully have a response, a favorable response, sometime later in the year when they get around to actually hearing the case. And it might not even be this year. Supreme Court cases, they can agree to hear it, but it can be years before they actually do something about it.
Yeah. The worst case scenario is big business is going to make a giant land grab on trademark.
And that's the thing is, I think for the time being, you're going to see normally these items that are kind of innocuous, that don't really have much value to them because they just do one simple thing. It is you'll see them add some little feature to it. They say, well, this is now a utilitarian device.
Yeah.
I
just don't want to see it becoming. I don't want to see the 3D printing community becoming a pissing match between companies.
Unfortunately, it's probably going to go that way for a little while.
Yeah.
I have my hopes that people will learn to embrace this technology. So that's why this case is really, really interesting.
It is, and like Joe mentioned, we will be following it very closely, and we will have information as soon as we can to you, and obviously our opinions. But I hope it turns out well.
Yeah. So, but that is the only real I can't say bad news, because I don't it's not bad nor good right now. It has the ability to be either. Yeah, and it's like Schrodinger's cat.
It's dead or alive.
Correct. Right now it is both
dead and alive. Yeah.
Correct.
And also, listeners, don't get up in arms in it. Really, just unfortunately take it as it comes, absorb it, and speak out. Really, if you feel the need, and if you're a part of the community, and people matter and people listen.
And that's a good way to really get involved in government. You can actually, voice your concerns to. I don't necessarily think you can go to like your representative or your congressman, but there's a way that you should be able to make your voice heard on this. Yeah. The internet is a great resource for information like this. Unfortunately, I didn't do my research on that ahead of time because, for whatever reason, I wasn't thinking. But there's definitely plenty of resources out there where you'd be able to at least say, "Hey,
this is what I
don't agree with this, and here are the reasons why." Unfortunately, you just can't say no, that bad, and they'll listen to you. You really have to say why,
articulate
and make
yourself
a case.
Well. Definitely. Yes. But yeah, like I said, just don't get up in arms and go, "This is bad," like Joe said.
Right.
That will never solve anything. Go about it with a clear head and use information as your backer.
Absolutely. Education and examples are your friend in matters like this. Mm-hmm. Putting that behind us and looking forward, there was I saw an interesting article. Evidently, last month was Earth Month.
Okay.
We had
a
Earth
month for everything.
I know. The 21st of last month was Earth Day, and I think they finally just decided that April was Earth Month. So this article came about because of Earth Month. Connor McCormack, the CEO of MCore, is greening up the 3D printing industry with a machine that uses paper to make 3D objects. MCore, in a way, is providing a sustainable technology option for teachers, designers, and eventually, he hopes, all consumers. The selective deposition lamination, or SDL technology, that McCormick's machines use features chlorine-free paper and a water-based adhesive that is capable of producing parts that are tough, durable, and green.
Is it really green?
Not literally green.
That'd be weird.
The paper has an archival life of 200 years and is a testament to responsible forestry. The printers allow users to toss printed materials into the recycling bin for a cradle-to-grave sustainability. In addition to using safe, clean, eco-friendly material, the printers offer the industry's highest resolution color at markedly lower operating costs. MCore's SDL is 10 to 20% of the cost of any other 3D printing technology on the market.
Nice.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's paper. So it's a good way to, well, you're not filling landfills with plastics. Mm-hmm. So making a prototype out of paper, you can just take it, toss it into a recycling bin, and off it goes. Yeah. It's good for the environment. And there's a lot of paper products anymore come as recycled post-consumer products.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of filament is actually using recycled plastics also. There's a Dutch company that I'm going to link to on the website. What's that?
Is it eSun?
No, this is something else that they're doing. They're actually going and reclaiming a lot of plastics and other things from landfills and turning it into 3D printable filaments and other things.
Very cool.
It's got a little Kickstarter behind it. It is an interesting article. I didn't quite read all of it, so I can't say a whole bunch on it. Mm-hmm. But I know that that's what they're doing. They're actually reclaiming some of these plastics and stuff to be reused and giving it a new life within a 3D printer.
Reduce, reuse.
Exactly.
Even close the loop.
Close the loop. Oh, yes. I liked cradle-to-grave sustainability. That's actually kind of a cool little phrase.
Nice little pun.
Yes. So here, what was it? Did we talk about ceramics last week?
Yes, we did.
Great. Well, this goes right along with that. In September of this year, Dutch startup and ceramic 3D printing experts Admatec have announced their first flagship 3D printer, the Adaflex 130, will be released. It will be an industrial-grade 3D printer for high-performance ceramics and will put a wide range of materials at the user's fingertips. Their first success was the development of their own Admaflex 3D printing technology, which has been based on Formatec Ceramics' own DLP 3D printing solution. Like a resin DLP 3D printer, it essentially uses light processing to harden a mixture of ceramic powder and photopolymers. The Adaflex 130 features an efficient reconditioning system that guarantees 100% effective material use through a clever recycling mechanism.
It's super effective.
It is super effective. Their 3D printing technology currently supports and is compatible with several materials, and other materials such as bone-replacing hydrozapatite, for example, will be forthcoming. Though it will not be available until September, the Adaflex 130 3D printer can now be pre-ordered. The initial series of 3D printers will cost approximately $86,000, which is on the low side for an industrial-grade 3D printer.
Ouch.
Yeah, ouch. That'll put a small dent in your pocketbook. Okay, maybe more than small. But it's cool. You know, we talked about high performance ceramics in engines and other things. Mm-hmm. This is just one more step pushing ceramics closer to a consumer grade product.
Yeah.
While most of us, 90% of us, will not have a spare $86,000 to spend on one of these printers that print ceramics. This is the first step in getting that technology closer to a consumer level.
Yeah, I mean, I wish.
Yeah. Printing ceramics is fascinating stuff. It really is. It's a very durable material. It is used in a lot of stuff, and you can do a lot of cool little trinkets, especially if you are into the trinket business. Yeah. If you're an artist and want to do knickknacks for grannies or just knickknacks for other people, you can do that. So, the last bit of the news that I have before we get on to the important topics, we have talked a lot about 3D printing in the medical field. Mm-hmm. We even talked about it in the veterinary field. Yeah. So this one here, this takes place in a few states to the east. Philip the Duck has received a new lease on life and a new pair of orange webbed feet that were 3D printed.
Yep, I read this one.
This is a great article. After being exposed to the bitter cold, Philip the Duck's feet basically deteriorated to the point of curling up and withering into non-functional state. Vicky Rabbit Harrison adopted Philip after seeing news of a story where numerous farm and domestic animals were being moved from a nearby home, which also detailed the state of Philip's feet. After doing some research online, Vicky discovered that 3D printing has been used in the past to help other animals in need of replacement limbs. She emailed Jason Jiske, a local school teacher, thinking maybe he could help. Jason called Vicky from his classroom to tell her that he had the 3D printer going and was making feet as they spoke. Since that point, it has taken nearly 6 weeks to get the feet just right for Philip. The new limbs were printed using NinjaFlex filament, which was donated to Philip's cause, and the feet take a total of 36 hours to print. Now that Philip is all fixed up, he'll be going to live happily ever after at an animal sanctuary.
Awesome.
Yeah, really awesome. I'm a huge animal advocate. My wife and I both like to think that we care more for animals than we do other people. Animals will give you unconditional love. There's no hidden agendas there. Mm-hmm. People are a lot more different.
People kind of suck.
I tend to keep people at more of an arm's length than I do animals. Mm-hmm. We've got, and this may sound kind of bizarre, but we've got 6 cats, 2 dogs, and a gecko here.
Joe's a crazy cat, man.
I like cats. I really do. We have two puppies that here real soon will be a year old.
Wow.
Yeah, they're almost a year now. And they are still hyper and crazy and just absolutely nuts.
Much better than they used to be, though.
They are. They're getting a lot better. When we first started doing the podcast and Andrew would come over, he would get mauled for like 20 minutes. Now he gets mauled for maybe 5, and then they're like, meh, I'm going to go lay down now. I've seen you before.
It's beard guy.
Yeah. Well, they'd even do that when I get home. So we've really had to change the way we do things. So when I get home, I basically ignore them for the first couple minutes, and then they realize, oh, hey, you're here. Maybe if I sit down and just chill out, you'll pay attention to me, and then I will come and pay attention to them once they're calm.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really helping out considerably.
Definitely.
So last week, you called me an ass.
I did, many times.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no.
Pretty sure I called you.
You called me a dick, actually.
Yeah.
That was the first thing you called me, but you called me an ass afterwards for winning a copy of Overwatch from Taco Bell. And I'm not promoting Taco Bell. I'm just a fact. We actually right now Overwatch is in open beta. Mm-hmm. And will be until the 9th, which is Monday. It'll be over by the time this podcast gets released.
And we have played the heck out of it.
Yeah, I was up till 3 in the morning playing. You and I both. It was you, myself, Becky, my wife, and then
a couple guys from work.
2 guys from work and one of the guys' brother-in-laws. Yep. And so we wound up playing till 3. Had a blast. It is not the hardcore first-person shooter like we were talking about. Yeah, it's not Call of Duty. It's not like Doom or any of those other ones. It's just kind of a fun little objective-based first-person shooter.
Very addicting.
It can be, yeah. Being Blizzard, they know how to really reel you in and get you to stay.
Wreck your life.
Yeah, it can. I don't doubt that it could do that.
But no, it's really fun. I'm really actually funny enough when it first came out and I saw the price point on it, I was like, I am not going to spend that kind of money on a TF2 reboot.
Yeah, it was $60 for the Origins edition.
Yeah, and then Joe won, and I was like, he's a jerk. And then I said something really stupid before that, like, if you win it, I'll buy it.
Yeah. However, I think there are 2 flavors of the game. There's a $40 version and a $60 version.
There are. I've bought the $60 version.
Right, and you wound up finding a discounted copy online for pre-order. But the difference between the $40 and the $60 version really is the characters that it comes with.
From what we found, it's not 100%. I've never found a definitive.
Right.
This is what you get, this is what you don't get between the 2 editions.
Which would be kind of weird if they did that, because some of those characters would be nice to play. They all have different abilities, and it would seem like they're really trying to push you into spending the extra money.
Yeah, or just play. I mean, they have 2 other games, both Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm,
right?
Where the heroes are available. You can purchase them with in-game money that you win from winning the games. This is Heroes of the Storm, or you can unlock them when you gain levels of experience.
Right.
In Hearthstone, you can win every card in the game by playing the daily quests.
And maybe that's the case because I do see that there is an in-game currency that you can unlock through loot boxes.
Yeah, to buy the skins.
Loot box, for those who haven't played or followed Overwatch, whenever you gain levels, you get a loot box. And then it unlocks, at random, 4 things. It could be like a voice taunt.
A spray, a voice, a skin, or currency.
Or currency, yes. So you have a chance to do that. I think there's one that I got last night. It was a duplicate of an item, and that duplicate actually just gets you currency.
Okay, makes sense.
So, and it wasn't a whole lot. I mean, it was like 15, whatever denomination they want to call it.
I bought a skin last night. It was one of the expensive ones, but it was the best skin I've seen in the game. And unfortunately, it's for a toon I don't play much. It's Farah.
Right.
But it was an Anubis skin.
Oh.
It looks awesome.
Nice.
So I bought it. With in-game currency. I didn't spend money.
Right.
And it is beta, so it would be really dumb if you could spend in-game money right at the moment.
Right.
Because everything's going to get wiped.
Right. Yeah.
The beta runs through the 9th, and the Monday the 9th. There's a good possibility, I can't remember which game it was, Heroes of the Storm. They lengthened the beta.
Right.
The open beta they did. And I'm really hoping they do it with Overwatch.
Well, most of the time when they lengthen the betas, there is a specific thing that they're really trying to fine-tune.
And I think for the most part right now it's their servers. They're testing server capacity.
It's all it is most open betas are just stress tests. They want to try and get as many people on and playing as possible so they can see how the servers act under load, and then they can fine-tune and tweak that so when they bring their rest of their servers online, they don't have issues where the game crashes under load. They have not had a really good record with this.
Yeah.
Most places who do this, they underestimate heavily the amount of users they're going to get at launch. It was the same way with World of Warcraft.
Oh gosh,
dude, the realm queues were ridiculous, and even Star Wars: Old Republic, they had that.
Dude, I remember on release dates on expansions for WoW, I had a script that was an auto clicker to clear my AFK.
Right.
And my toon would literally be logged in for 3 days beforehand. I would never let him log out. I would leave the game.
Well, yeah, just so you could.
I would sleep, but it literally just sat there in an open place where it never would get attacked, and it wasn't a faction place, so it was neutral. And it would just literally sit there and clear my AFK every 19 minutes, because if you're AFK for 20 minutes in World of Warcraft, you get booted from the server.
Oh, yeah.
And every 19 minutes, it would auto-clear AFK, and I would just sit there.
Yep.
And literally for a week after expansion drop, my main toon never logged out of the game.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Because it got up into the hours for queue times.
Oh, there was a great YouTube video that they had. It was of the queues. It had one of the undead rogues with the queue timer on it, with Gwen Stefani's "What You Waiting For." You could probably look it up on YouTube. It's probably, I would almost guarantee it's still out there, because nothing leaves the internet once it hits the internet.
Cats never forget.
That's right. Cats never forget.
But yeah, it's been fun. I've been having a lot of fun with the beta. I'm really glad that they did it. Glad I pre-purchased it now.
Yeah, I was, like I said, when I had no intentions of getting this game. It's out of the box. It's an out of the box thing for Blizzard, but Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm were both out of the box. Hearthstone being a virtual CCG, and Heroes of the Storm being a MOBA.
Yeah, and funny enough, I've had fun with Heroes of the Storm. I don't currently play it, but I've had a lot of fun with Hearthstone.
I had no interest. I was around when Magic the Gathering came out. When I went to MissCon in 1994, Wizards was there handing out packs. And I just...
Don't you wish you still had that?
I really did, because a lot of people were just throwing them away.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have went and got that, because at that same time, TSR, who was the... creator and publisher of Dungeons and Dragons, they had released Spellfire. And me being a D&D fan, I kind of went the D&D route, and I really wish I hadn't done that, because years later, it was 4th edition had already been released by this point in time, that I got into Magic. And I had a lot more fun with Magic. It was an easier game to play. It was a fast game, or could be a fast game, depending upon the deck you built or who you're up against. And I just had a lot more fun with it. I was able to introduce several people. I still have Magic cards, but I wound up here last year getting rid of all of my old cards. It's one of those things where if you get into it...
You went 3D printers? What?
Yeah, and that was the thing, is I wanted to get into 3D printing. So that helped subsidize my 3D printing, my first 3D printer purchase. But it's one of those things where when you get into it, it's almost like an addiction. You're spending tons and tons of money, because you're like, I want that card. So now you're buying packs of cards for, hell, I don't even know what they go for anymore. $2.50, $5. I don't know.
I don't know.
But I know when I was getting, I ran a game. Me and a couple friends and acquaintances, we owned a game shop for a while, and when I was into Spellfire, I would buy boxes of Spellfire cards. And when new Magic expansions came out, when I was one of the owners of the game shop, I would have people come in and lay down hundreds and hundreds of dollars for boxes of Magic cards.
Yeah, because you get the whole expansion.
No, you weren't guaranteed every card.
Oh, really?
In a box, no. There are 15 cards at random, and one of those cards, and only I think one of the cards in a pack was a rare.
Yeah, and like you had 3 lands.
Yeah, I think some of those were mana cards, or land cards, and then the rest were a variety. You had commons, some uncommons, and a rare,
and a foil,
and it had a chance to be a foil.
Mm-hmm.
So I had guys dump hundreds of dollars on these things.
Yeah.
I just was shocked at how much money they really threw at this game.
I don't know if you ever heard of Boogie 2988?
Yes, I have. I was subscribed to his channel there for a while on YouTube, but it got to the point where it really, you could tell that everything is set up anymore.
Oh, the Francis thing? Oh, yeah, definitely. It's an alternate.
Yeah, he really just went way over the top, and he gets a lot of followers for it. Good for him. Mm-hmm. It's just not my thing anymore.
Actually, you should look into him again. He does the Francis thing, but it's a separate. They're definitely like, this is Francis, and that's his alter ego kind of thing. He's got a couple of them actually, but he also does a weekly just talking.
Right.
Very insightful guy, very smart guy.
Oh yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I started following him, is because I like some of that stuff, but then I don't know. It seemed like more of the stuff that I was seeing was him just
freaking out, and
flipping tables over, and most of the people that seemed like that he was doing that to, they had no clue what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, some people really knew what was going on, and if I was in that situation, I'd be kind of cheesed off.
Do you know he got married?
I do. Yeah. Yep.
And the reason I brought it up, he's a big Magic fan. Huge. Wizards of the Coast send him boxes to do openings.
Yep. And that's one of the reasons actually why I started following him, is because of his Magic stuff. Mm-hmm. He started talking about Magic and gaming and other things. I was like, oh, cool. And then I watched a few videos. I'm like, hey, I like this guy. And then a year went by or so, and then he really got into this Francis thing. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, okay, this is a little bit much. It's a little bit off the beaten path that he was going.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have other things to do, and I really didn't want to sort through Francis videos versus Boogie videos.
I like him. I can relate to the guy in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. I've always had issues with weight. I'm a bigger guy. And just not even to the fact of like feeling better because there's other fat people out there.
Right.
Just hearing his life struggles, and just it's almost like confirmation, like other people go through this stuff too, and it's a real thing. And I like him. I like listening to his mostly news type casts, and I do watch his unboxing videos just because his reactions are funny.
Oh yeah.
Some of his Francis things, I'm like, I can take it or leave it. Most of them, I can leave it.
Right.
Actually, the first time I ever saw him was when he did the fat guy freaks out and kills an Xbox.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's funny. And that's it. Originally, I was very turned off by it because you get that being a big guy. If you own it, you have the whole plug your ears. Plug your ears. Being a big guy, you can go with the whole Tyrion thing and say if you own it and protect yourself with it, nobody can ever hurt you with it. And sorry, Joe has not listened to watched Game of Thrones yet. So
it doesn't matter. I still heard what you said. And I don't think you've spoiled anything.
It's just a line he says, and it's kind of weird saying like something from Game of Thrones like really gave me something.
I got insight from a movie or a series that deals with murder and incest.
But it really, in life, if you really armor yourself with the things that you feel are your shortcomings and you don't let people hurt you with them, and you own it, it's really true.
Absolutely. And it kind of goes to something my wife and we were going into town today. we got a recall notice on some frozen food that we got, so we had to go return that and do a couple other things. And one of the local news stations has been doing billboards all over the place, all over Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. And she made comments. She goes, okay, so some of these guys aren't real attractive. Why is it that every time you see a female newscaster, she is dolled up and attractive? Mm-hmm. There's plenty of women out there, but you never see a woman that actually looks, is an average woman even. Mm-hmm. A lot of store mannequins. We went into Target here a week or so ago, and they have an actual true average body-sized, not rail-thin mannequin.
But could she use both bathrooms? Sorry, I had to.
I didn't spend time to check the undercarriage. I wasn't going to Crocodile Dundee her.
Good reference. She's a man down there.
I like Paul Hogan. But anyway. And so she made a comment about that. I'm like, look, it's unfortunate. It is a very sexist thing. And your newscaster, your sportscasters and everything else, they are all, some of them are better looking than others, but most guys really aren't uber attractive. Whereas, most female newscasters, they're forcing them into this image. And I used this as an example for her. I said years ago, back when the whole conversion to HD was coming along, Family Guy had finally decided to step up to HD quality. They changed their animation style. They went from hand-drawn animation to computer animation, and went up to an HD format. Okay. And widescreen even. Rather than the regular 4:3, they went to the widescreen format. So one of those was in the show. They made comment that they were watching Fox News, and Fox News was going HD, and they'd be able to see Rhonda Latimer. I can't believe I remembered that name in HD format.
Wait! You can't believe you remembered an obscure reference?
It's an obscure name within. They only had this once in the show.
So let me make this clear to everybody listening at home. Joe is the king of obscure references. Anything you could. It's that. What? Why do you know this?
It surprises my wife when she will ask me a question and I don't have an answer to it.
The world breaks.
It does. She's like, "You're my Google." I'm like, "Look. Okay, I know a lot, but I don't quite know everything yet." So, but anyway, back to the story here. So Peter and the guys go out because Rhonda Latimer is like, the quintessential sexy news anchor. So they buy an HD TV to see Rhonda Latimer in HD in all of her glory, as it would be. So they get the HD TV set up. They go to sit down to watch Fox News that night, and it comes on, and it shows Rhonda Latimer, and she's like got wrinkles and all kinds of these blemishes and stuff that your supposedly your non-HD TV wouldn't catch.
HD does not lie.
And it starts the newscast, and they're like, and then moments later, male newscaster comes in, shoves her out of the way, and makes some reference about something happening and her being replaced or something. But it's true,
sex sells.
Right? Even if it is news, because I would be willing to bet if you look at news ratings, if you have female newscaster A and female newscaster B, both of them are attractive, but one is a little more mainstream attractive than the other one, I would be willing to bet the one that's more mainstream attractive gets the most ratings, and it goes down to the sex sells thing, which is an absolute shame because there's a lot of smart women out there, and all they're doing is sexualizing them and creating body image issues for younger generation. So that's my soapbox.
Yeah, are you done standing on it?
Yeah, I'm done standing on it.
For the moment?
I just, like I said, I think it's unfair, and there's definitely a level of inequality at that level, and that's not even getting into the inequality in pay and other stuff between a man and a woman in the workplace. Yep. So that's a whole nother conversation.
And we won't go there.
Yeah, that right there is way off the 3D printing podcast line of topics. So, but anywho, Overwatch, we enjoy. Great game.
Gonna play the heck out of it. Hopefully, and we've said it so many times, I really want to stream Overwatch. It'd be really cool if any guys that are listening out there like to play as well. Come and join a game with us, play against us, whatever you like. Yeah, it'd be fun.
My Battle.net ID, if you want to hook up with me, it's OMG Gnomes, 2 G's, OMG GNOMES, pound or hashtag 1175.
Oh gosh, now I have to look mine up.
Mine's easy to remember because the numbers actually correspond to something within my life.
Mine doesn't. Derp. Battle.net, where are you?
As Andrew frantically scrolls through his phone trying to find out what his Battle.net ID is.
I think it's 1795, but we'll see.
Well,
right. I am right. Okay, and mine is Frosty, spelled FROSTIE, hashtag pound sign, whatever you want to call it, number sign, 1795. So, yeah. Yes.
You know, if you actually reverse 2 of those numbers, that's my birth year.
Yeah, you're old.
Yeah, it's 1975. Yeah.
You know what mine is? 1988.
Yeah. It's only 13 years.
Only. All right, well, I think that does it for this week. It's been a great podcast. We've had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things. I don't think that we missed anything.
I don't believe so either.
We've probably talked a little. We probably
rambled
on a little more than we have in the past, but you know what? It happens. It's fun. So,
but I'm Andrew.
I'm Joe, and remember, if you can imagine it, you can print it.